there's witchy requirement to aware on the fracas encompassing the Israelite lead. Why is Netanyahu creature studied? Netanyahu is a suspicion in two individual penal investigations, named as Instance 1000 and Instance 2000. The cases engage concoction of reception bribes, scam, and violation of confidence, on to police force. In Instance 1000, Netanyahu is suspected of possessing acquired talent of businessmen across the sea, consisting cigars for oneself. The instance has concentrated mainly on Netanyahu's relation in Israelite multimillionaire and Hollywood manufacturer Arnon Milchan, although the inquiry has advanced to involve some rich businessmen in bonds to Netanyahu. Nir Hefetz, who was one-day print and communication CEO for the Netanyahu household, downplayed the severity of the inquiry recent summer. "We're speaking on cigars how we're taking into account lot times above the year of 17 year of amity, so the claims how one this cost hundreds of thousands of shekels was taking into account, or how lot presents cost thousands of dollar every were taking into account, is just not real. Same shut amity among the families is an unambiguous reality and cannot be rejected," Hefetz added. Milchan as well rejected any offense. Milchan was requested to full his evidence, and respectively gave complete evidence as he has made in the history, and acted in full virginity for the nice of the nation in his eyes. Time manufacturing certainly he complies in the act, his attorney told in September. In Instance 2000, police force include studied conversations Netanyahu had in Arnon Noni Moses, the proprietor of one of Israel's guideline newspapers, Yedioth Aharonoth, that is routinely crucial of the main secretary. In the conversations, transcripts of that include been leaked in the Israelite print. Netanyahu supposedly discusses restrictive the circulating of Yedioth Aharonoth's main rival, the Sheldon Adelson-owned Israel Hayom, a long-wing paper seen as conducive Netanyahu, in exchanging for more than favorable scope. Both of Netanyahu and Moses include told these were not severe discussions, quite, they every complaint they were hard to subject the sum's absence of reliability. Netanyahu has often declared his virginity, insisting how investigators will discover he did anything incorrect. In a televised declaration on Tuesday, Netanyahu told how the police force recommendations will end in anything and how the concoction versus him include no base. Police force will now undergo the testimony to the lawyer general, who will do a judgment on if or not to accuse Netanyahu. How judgment is not anticipated inevitably. While did the investigations start? Growing to the standard of penal investigations, these inquiries began as examinations in July 2016. 6 months after, investigators unsecured testimony to order an formal inquiry, onto a declaration of Lawyer General Avichai Mendelblit. Netanyahu has met in investigators and been surveyed 7 times currently, largest newly on December 15, 2017. Police force show the suspect of scam, reception bribes, and violation of confidence in August 2017. While did the investigations get severe? Any police force inquiry of a main secretary is a severe question, but the inquiry achieved a new standard in previous August while Netanyahu's ex-head of personnel, Ari Haro, rotated country's eyewitness, assenting to witness versus his old lug. The Usborne Haro serviced by the main secretary while he was selected to his other period in 2009. As portion of the transactions, Haro coordinated to beg those guilty of making scam and violation of confidence in an completely individual instance. In exchanging, prosecutorial will query how Haro be presented 6 months of society facility and a penalty of 700,000 shekels, about $200,000, instead of a prison period, that such a infringement normally draw. Is he the just Netanyahu creature studied? Netanyahu's woman is as well by inquiry, but in a fully individual instance. In September, Lawyer General Avichai Mendelblit said Sarah Netanyahu how he is examining an bill of indictment on scam and violation of confidence infringement. Mendelblit had been wait a episode of police force investigations in Sarah Netanyahu, but told how he was yet chasing just one of the cases versus her, called to in the declaration as the meals order case. The statement in the instance is how among September 2010 and March 2013, Sarah Netanyahu, in a elder formal at the main secretary's office space declared 359,000 shekels, on $100,000, in public catering cost of restaurants and employed chefs, although down there were cooks and chefs involved at the main secretary's formal accommodation. Subordinate such a charge claims is just allowable, onto the rules steering the Israelite main secretary, in the lack of formal cooks at the accommodation. Sarah Netanyahu had a listening in front line of the lawyer general up he done his definitive judgment. Sarah Netanyahu has rejected the concoction versus her, indicating to an matrix of some investigations how we're close out of bill of indictment. Same just item the AG is yet examining is the question of meal platters orderly for the main secretary's office space. How to is object to a listening and will be refuted fully, she told in September. Are the Netanyahu probes the just ones cladding by the government? No. Police force are as well studying a instance named as Instance 3000, that involves the many millions buy of Deutsche submarines and assault boats. The procurements were done for Netanyahu's premiership, although the lawyer general has clearly told how Netanyahu is not a goal of the inquiry. Lot in Netanyahu's internal round include been surveyed, and several include been mentioned as suspects in the continuing inquiry. The monthly, Israel's police force head, Ronnie Al-Sheikh, told for the at first period how Netanyahu will offer evidence as portion of Instance 3000. Down there are some members of Netanyahu's Likud side how are by inquiry, but such cases are unrelated to Instance 1000, 2000 or 3000. Is Netanyahu concerned? And why no? For Netanyahu's at first period in the deceased 1990s, police force suggested indicting him in 2 individual cases. Both of times, the lawyer general solved versus filing and bill of indictment, and the investigations versus the main secretary. Netanyahu has forecasted the identical will occur once again. By Israelite Act, Netanyahu doesn't include to abandon if police force encourage and bill of indictment. In reality, he just has to abandon if he is condemned and if how belief is upheld via the appeals trial to the top trial, a trial how could in theory get year. He's cost noted how some main ministers include as well had cases close versus them out of extortion creature registered, consisting Ariel Sharon and Ehud Barak. Yet, more than so rather than nobody else, Netanyahu is aware of the implacable fact of Israel's policy framework. He has the supporting law now of all of the parties in his coalition since he has won 4 persons elections and is a tested victor in national Israelite policy. He is in property, particularly to a law wing by the government. The time he becomes a obligation, each to his own side or to some policy parties in his coalition, Netanyahu is in anxiety. In 2008, later Prime Secretary Ehud Olmert was pressured to abandon by Ehud Barak, his defense secretary and major coalition affiliate. Olmert was by inquiry for suspected corrupt practices, and Barak believed he had too lot of a policy obligation. It is as well cost recall how Netanyahu's by the government is solidly of the law wing. If any of the parties in the coalition took downward the by the government, it would potential indicate changing off of a law wing philosophy. How might not act so in such parties' prudent elector basis? Should he be concerned? Aryeh Deri, the lead of the ultra-Orthodox Shas side, was condemned of take bribes time he was the Interior Design Secretary. He consumable almost 2 years in jail. He refundable to policy on a 10 years following his produce, and is one day once again serving as Interior Design Secretary. In brief, if Netanyahu expects his stance as main secretary to panel him of the investigations, Story says he is mistaken. Dismissing the opportunity how he would move downward if police force encourage and bill of indictment, Netanyahu told, part the recommendations of police force and, in anything,